Hey guys, Alex from Borg and Cove here, and today we're finally talking about CMON Comics. Now I have a few quick things to cover first. I'll have timestamps down below if you want to jump straight to the CMON Comics analysis or whatnot. But starting off with is I didn't actually plan on doing this video today, so it's going to be a bit late. I usually put my videos up at 10 a.m. I started putting a bit more of a schedule to them, but this one's going to be popping up later because I kind of realized last minute that I have too many videos that are time sensitive and not enough time to get to them. I want to do another Kickstarter roundup before a few Kickstarters that are ending pretty quickly. So I'm going to have another video going up tomorrow. And then if I do CMON Comics after that, there's not much time left there either. So I realized last minute that it's time to do this video. So this will probably be going up around 20-25 minutes after I'm done filming. So that's number one to begin with. And number two is 3,000 backers, you guys, not backers, subscribers. I'm so used to Kickstarter, I say backers. 3,000 subscribers, you guys are freaking awesome. Thank you so much. This has really been a fun journey for me, and it continues to be a fun journey. I really enjoy looking forward to doing these videos every day. At the end of the day, when I'm done with working and getting everything done, it's relaxing to me to, take a look at my topics, the videos I want to cover, and say, okay, well, today I'm doing that. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. You guys are the reason I keep doing it. Trust me when I say if I had 120 subscribers, it would be much harder to put that energy in with the level of engagement. The more engagement, the more viewership, the more back and forth there is, the more rewarding it becomes. I really appreciate that you guys being here. I really appreciate everyone else who joins, anyone who pops in, subscribes, watches, whatever you're doing. It really adds to my level of enjoyment because I know I'm not just talking to a screen, I'm talking to you guys, and that's what makes it fun for me. In any case, all that being aside, let's start with CMON Comics. So, CMON Comics. With CMON campaigns, and a lot of these bigger campaigns, I specifically usually try to get a video in the first 2 or 3 days. I don't like waiting too long. I want to get something in. Sometimes if it's a big enough campaign, I'll cover more details later after things change. Other times I'll touch upon in my Kickstarter roundups. CMON Comics I specifically waited for because I had a lot of opinions, but I really wanted to see how the campaign developed because my opinions before the campaign developed were just too wishy-washy. There was a lack of substance of what's going on here. So let's jump into it. Let's cover what CMON Comics is all about in case you don't know, and then I'll tell you the usual. Am I backing it? Why am I backing it? Should you back it? Do I believe it's a good buy? For those new here, these videos usually cover a financial aspect of games. Not to resell, although you're welcome to, but rather I back a lot of campaigns every year, and I want to ensure that I can do so without foolishly putting my money into games that are going to cost twice as much in Kickstarter, and you can get it later much cheaper. So I try to look at the value proposition. I'm a gamer first, but I'm a gamer who wants to spend my money well, and if you fall into that category, these videos are for you. Go ahead and subscribe down below. Share it with your friends who fall into that category. But yeah, I get a lot of comments on these videos about, money. You're talking about money and not the game. Yes, I'm talking about money. Yes, I'm a gamer first, but unless you have an unlimited budget and you can spend money on whatever you want, those things should be a factor to you. So, CMON Comics. This is a CMON campaign, obviously, and it's covering comics of 3 specific intellectual properties of theirs. It covers Zombicide Second Edition, the Cthulhu Death May Die, and Zombicide Invader. Those are the 3 topics they are covering, although there is an additional optional buy for Starcadia Quest. So if you're interested in that, pay attention to that as well. Now, these are comic books, obviously, and I walked into this campaign with very mixed feelings. I would say I was skeptical but positive, and the reason I was skeptical but positive is in general I don't like having things for games I like hidden behind a paywall of stuff I don't care about at all. I don't like that. It's not fun to pay for a comic book in order to get a bunch of minis. It's just not something that's fun to do. Now, as someone who has defended CMON in the past, or defended is a tough word, criticized but not nearly as harshly and with an understanding of where they come from, I don't actually have a problem with their business decision here. Their business decision is the process of an upsell, a cross-sell. They are trying to get you to buy something and launch a new property. I mean, how successful would CMON Comics be unless there was an audience for them? And what if they can build that audience by bundling in all these things that people will ultimately get the comic book, and they'll get the comic book because they want the miniatures, but now they have a reason to look into it. Maybe they like it. They're using their business, savvy or whatnot to get you in the door. And if you don't feel that's worth it, don't back. If you feel it is worth it and you're just complaining about it, then, I understand where you're coming from. I understand the FOMO aspect of things, but ultimately, you have to spend your money where you think it's worth it. If it's not worth it, don't back it. If it is worth it, back it. This is just another way of trying to sell things, no different than sending a customer an email, no different than running a sale, no different than putting something you like in something you don't like. But again, it's up to you, it's up to me, it's up to the backers to decide what is and isn't worth it for them. And that's where this video comes in. Is it worth it or is it not? If you're interested in these miniatures, if you're interested in the comics. Now, to begin with, I want to make it very clear, I know a lot about board games. I know a lot about the market for board games. I know a lot about the value of board games, how they adjust, how they change. I know the secondary market. I know the retailer side. I know the distributor models. I know a lot about board games. I know very, very, very little about comics. And take that into account when I talk about the value proposition here and what I think about the campaign. There's a huge degree of ignorance on anything to do with the comic book secondary market, so I am not taking that into account. To me, I am viewing the comics as something that maybe you'll like it, and if not, maybe you'll have the opportunity to resell it, but I am not in any way taking it into account when I talk about whether you can sell this, whether you can't, or whatnot, just because I don't know that market, and I don't want to talk about something with a strong opinion about something that I am ignorant of. That would be disingenuous and unfair to you guys. So let's talk about the campaign. Let's talk about what you're getting, what you're not getting. So one of the reasons I waited here is because one of the reasons I was optimistic was because of Blood Rage Digital. Blood Rage Digital was a campaign that CMON launched to basically have Blood Rage on Steam, and then they're going to have extras thrown in. And I initially walked into this thinking I was going to pass. Thinking, yeah, sure, there'll be some extras, but I don't care enough about the digital property. I'm not going to play a game on Steam, so what do I care? I'm just going to skip on it. But then by the time the campaign was done, they had enough things included that it was a clear, obvious back to me. It was a good reason to back, that I was getting enough physical stuff, and then, side benefit, with COVID-19, I'll actually be playing Blood Rage Digital. Never thought I was going to. I thought there would be a Steam key that would sit and die, maybe I'd sell it. I did not think I would play it. But yeah, so the reason I backed it though was nothing to do with the Steam, that's just a side benefit. The reason I backed it was all these extras that they gave. They sat there and said, hey, look at all these things. You get another tribe, I don't care about that. You get all these monsters, I do care about that, those are great. You get these extras. You get the player boards, the 3D tokens. Blood Rage, if you've watched my videos, you know that it's my #1 game of all time. So the idea that you're getting all these extras to me for like $60 plus shipping, totally worth it. And then yes, sure enough, the aftermarket on this was people selling this for $100 plus for getting the Steam key, just for the physical stuff. So Blood Rage Digital, which was a Kickstarter campaign that I was critical of, not critical of their business decision, but critical of I didn't think I would back it, is a game that I ended up being super psyched about, getting the extras, using the extras. Some of the miniatures are cool. I love the gods, the bigger gods. I love the component upgrades. And the monsters, they range from, super cool to okay, but either way, it's more stuff in my copy of Blood Rage. And as someone who never had the original Kickstarter, that was great. Really happy with it. And so when they announced CMON Comics, I walked in skeptical of the comic book side of things, having no interest in the comic book side of things, but being super interested in the promos, and more importantly, the optional buys. Now, day one, we already had a decent amount of information in the sense that we were going to get 10 days worth of optional buys. And assuming you look into these figures correctly, there's going to be 21 miniature-related figures. I mean, there's a certain degree of assumption here, but I assume this is a miniature, this is a miniature. You can see on the screen what looks like miniatures versus what looks like promotional content. And so 21 of these 30 promos will be miniature related extras, and the other 9 will be other things like short stories for the comics, another card or whatnot. Now I'll be focusing primarily, I'll talk about the pledge levels in a second, I'll be focusing primarily on Cthulhu Death May Die when I talk about my own decision, my own thought process, specifically because that is the one that I like the most. I have not played Zombicide 2.0, I don't have it yet, nobody does, and Zombicide Invader is one that I'm on the fence about. I like Black Plague more, and so I don't know if Zombicide Invader is going to be staying in my collection. So I'm focusing on the one that I know best. Now with that said, it should be noted, let's talk about the pledge levels. First of all, you can get 1 comic for $30, you can get 2 comics for $55, or you can get all 3 for $75. The shipping for all of them is fairly reasonable, at around $10 a pop, or I think if I recall correctly, let me just scroll down here. Shipping information, yeah, so 1 comic is $15, so more than $10, sorry about that, and 3 is $15 to $25. So it is not, I mean, ultimately you're going to be out $100 for 3 comics, okay? So if you like comics, probably worth it to begin with. Not for the comics alone, but for the comics plus the extras. If you don't like comics, then that's a real question. Now all of a sudden you're paying $100 for 3 miniatures. $100 for 21 miniatures and 9 other degrees of promotional content, plus you get these comic books in the back as extras. So is that worth it? The answer there is it's a strong depends. Let's start with baselines. If you're comparing that cost compared, that's a starting pledge level for a CMON campaign. If you're comparing that to, let's say, Starcadia Quest, just as base point, and the amount of content you get in the base game, that is a terrible buy. Absolutely terrible. They give you significantly more content in a base game. The flip side is if you're comparing it to the optional buys in one of these campaigns. If you're comparing it to, let me see if I can find it, here we go. If you're comparing it to paying $12 for 2 figures, that's $6 a figure. So suddenly $100 for 21 figures is within the realm of reason, because you're also getting additional promo content and you're also getting those comic books. So it very much depends on your frame of reference. But if you're someone who is used to buying these extras at $12 a pack, at $12 for 2, then it shouldn't be that crazy to spend $5 per miniature to get all 3 comic books, all of the extras and whatnot. So the frame of reference very much depends on whether you're looking at this as extra promos you're willing to pay more for, versus, well, I have a limited budget and I could back something else. And so I will back something else, and I'm not going to get this because I can get 3-4 times the content in a base CMON pledge compared to this extras. So that's the baseline value here. It very much depends on whether you're looking at it as your own individual purchase, or whether you're looking at it as something that you have a limited budget for, or something to resell, the value there. In terms of the whether it's worth it, I'm going to start with my own decision. And I am backing this, by the way. This is the part where I tell you, yes, I am backing it. I am backing it all in, and I'll tell you why. I am backing this primarily for Cthulhu Death May Die. Cthulhu Death May Die is a game I love. I am more than happy to pay $10 for an additional investigator, $10 a figure, forget 5, for Cthulhu Death May Die, because I love that game, and there's tons of content. I already have tons of investigators, but I don't mind having more, and some of these figures are super cool. So for a game I love, it is worth that price. But this brings us to part 2, which is, I don't like to pay a premium price because of FOMO for a game I love. If I believed these would be available cheaper later, you can bet your bottom dollar I would wait and get them cheaper later. I have no problem being patient. I have plenty of games, plenty of other figures. I'm in no rush. But this brings us to the value proposition part of the video. I believe these will not be available cheaper later. I believe you will, especially because of the nature of combining comics with the extras, you're going to have so many people who pass on it because they don't like that aspect of the campaign, and they're not even doing the value discussion of, well, I was willing to pay $12 for these 2, but I'm not willing to pay these because it's behind a paywall of comics. Look at the total price and look at what it's worth to you. But enough people will pass on it that you will have a hard time getting this later. You will have a harder time getting these super cheap after the fact. These are going to be promos that sell for above what you paid for them, and because I am certain of that, again, could be wrong, just opinions, but because I am certain of that, I am going to back it now. As far as the others, as far as Zombicide and Zombicide Invader, those I'm less sure about. I will say, I love some of these figures. Absolutely love this. This is, the Keiko here, Kaiko, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that. Some of these figures are incredibly cool. Also, Diana. Some of these characters are really awesome. But if I don't like those games, they will add to the resale value of my own copies. If I choose not to keep Invader in the end, which I'm very much on the fence about, I have backed Zombicide 2.0. If it comes and I don't like it, I don't want to keep it, they will very much add to the value, and they will end up paying for my full pledge, those 2 alone, possibly more. This is where it sucks. I do get it. The fact that they're hiding it behind a paywall sucks. The fact that it's $5 per figure, which is the promo extra cost, that's more comparable to extras as opposed to the base pledge, it sucks. But if you like these games, if you want this content, it's not an unreasonable price to pay for something that you either love and or something that will hold its value. I don't like it on a personal level when companies hold their content behind other content I don't like or I don't care about. But you know what? They accomplished their goal. I'm going to get those comics now, and I'm going to read them to boot. I'm not just going to try to immediately flip them on the secondary market. I don't know what they're worth. But, I mean, I'm not a comic book person, but I don't mind a good graphic novel, and these might be good, and they're but properties that I enjoy. So yes, I will end up reading the comics, I may become a fan in the future, and I'll get promotional material that is totally worth it for me for games that I love. These extras will hold their value, almost certainly. And again, that is said with a complete ignorance of the comic book secondary market, complete ignorance whether something like this can be worth money compared to a Batman, Superman. I have no clue. I know the superhero world, obviously, but the last time I was super into comics, I was much younger, and it hasn't been something that grew with me as I aged, and so I'm just ignorant of that market. I hope that helps. I know it's tough. This was one that, and I will say, I do want to cut in here, one of the reasons I was waiting was to see what optional buys would be in play. I thought that this might be more akin to Blood Rage Digital, that they would have significantly more actual gameplay optional buys, versus so far the only optional buy they have is the Starcadia Quest Extra Comics. At the same time, keep in mind that they said in that update, let me see if I can find it here, they said, okay, Starcadia Quest unlocks, here we go. I think it's this one. They said over here, it's time to add, today we'd like to introduce our first optional buy. They used the word first, so there's going to be something else here. I don't know if it's going to be another comic. I don't know if it's going to be something game related. I don't know if it's going to be a pack of miniatures across all of them to push people up into that third pledge tier. Whatever it is, there's going to be more going on here, almost certainly, just because they used the word first. I don't want to wait that much longer, which is why I'm doing this video now. But it is frustrating, but worth it. In terms of if you are interested in these games at all, I think you should back it. If you're interested in just the comic books and want to sell the miniatures to pay for the comic books, I think you should back it. If you're not interested at all and just want to flip it for a profit, I don't know if that the time and effort and locking your money is worth it, but hey, you do you. That's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. What's your opinion? Let me know down below. Are you backing these and why? Do you love Invader? Do you love Cthulhu Death May Die? Are you so sure you're going to love Zombicide 2.0? What do you think of the miniature sculpts? I think they're pretty cool. I think these are some really cool sculpts. And the initial 3 promo sculpts that they showed day 1, let me see if I can find them here. The initial 3 sculpts they showed when they were telling everyone about them, I didn't think those were as cool. These guys over here, the Hobo was okay. Lysa I didn't care about at all. Kane I didn't care about at all. These felt more derivative compared to other sculpts in the game. But then by the time you got to day 2, they're already much cooler. Day 3 is okay. Day 4 is killing it. And Annabelle from Cthulhu Death May Die, that skull in her hands, I'm super psyched. I'd pay $20 for that one alone. She looks cool. Hopefully her ability's cool, because there's always a few miniatures in Death May Die that I pass over. But anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents. As usual, subscribe down below, ring the bell for notifications. Subscribe to the channel if you like more Kickstarter news, more Kickstarter roundups, covering some videos and some Kickstarters in detail, some Kickstarters in brief, as well as other stuff. I cover comparison videos, topics in general, ethics in board games, whatever you want. And in general, if you want me to cover something, just ask. I'm usually fairly receptive. Like I said, I find these videos therapeutic for myself. I find them enjoyable after a long day, so I'm always happy to cover whatever people ask about. Until next time, have a good one. I'm Alex, and enjoy.